A very good morning to everyone. Welcome in the class. And as we say, let's crack CSIR UGC NET with India's largest learning platform, that is Unacademy. And that is also the name of our channel, that is Let's Crack CSIR UGC NET. So let us begin. I'm your educator Farida Johar Bandhukwala. I have a teaching experience of 10 years. I've qualified MP NET Examination in year 2018. If you're opting for Unacademy, what all things you are going to get? You are going to get daily live classes so that you can be always in that momentum of studies. And in live class, you can ask your doubts and queries directly with the faculty members. Then the whole syllabus which is taught on Unacademy is very much structured so that you can actually complete the whole thing in a limited span of time. Because 13 units are quite a lot to complete. So it is designed in a very systematic manner. Then live tests and quizzes are taken so that you can evaluate yourself that how much you have learned so far. And then if you're opting for Unacademy and you're choosing any category, you will have unlimited access towards all the videos and everything that is recorded in that particular category. So Unacademy tries to give free classes on two platforms. One platform is YouTube. Another platform is special classes. So you're watching this class on YouTube platform. So for watching the classes on YouTube platform, you just need to actually subscribe the channel, go to the channel and watch the live classes. And for special classes, you need to download the Unacademy learning app. When you will download this app, you will be asked to make an account. After making account, they'll ask you the referral code of an educator. So you can use my referral code FB01. And by using my referral code, you will be getting the access towards all the videos which have been recorded in the special category by me or any other educator. After that, there is a plus subscription of Unacademy, and this plus subscription is a paid subscription. You need to pay a certain amount, but all the 13 units would be completed in a very systematic manner through plus subscription. It can be very much beneficial in qualifying the examination. Many of the important topics which we do not cover on YouTube and a special class, we cover it on Plus platform. So for that, you need to pay a certain amount. For now, a major discount is going on. So avail the opportunity of availing the discount. For 12 months, it is just 11,550 rupees, and for 24 months, it is 16,800 rupees. And you can get an additional 10% discount by using my referral code FB01. So for 12 months, it is going to cost you 10,395, and for 24 months, it is going to cost you 15,120 rupees. So coming to the topic of today, that is radio immunoassay. So RIA is the name of the topic, that is radio immunoassay. In many of the examination, I've seen kids writing radial. So do not at all go for that. And I've even seen in the question papers that option they get is radial immunoassay. It's not at all radial, it is radio immunoassay. Right? So we'll be discussing all the small words of the topic. That is, first of all, we'll be talking about immunoassay. That why the name given is immunoassay, right? So immunoassay. So what is an immunoassay? Immunoassay is basically a test that uses antibody and antigen complexes. So a test that uses antibody and antigen complexes will fall under the category of immunoassay. Then what else? What is an antibody? Antigen complex. Antigen antibody complex is something that happens in our body whenever there is a infection. Antigen enters from outside and antibody is created by the body. So antigen antibody complex is also called as immune complex. So antibody antigen complex, also known as immune complex. Immune complex. Now another word, that is immuno. Immuno refers to an immune response that causes the body to generate the antibodies. Immuno refers to an immune response which cause body to generate the antibodies. So immuno, the word immuno, alone immuno, not the assay, refers to any kind of immune response which actually leads to generation of antibody. Assay, simply assay means test. Assay means test. So immunoassay is a test that utilizes immunocomplexing when antibodies and antigens, they are brought together. Right? So let us write this thing also, that immunoassay is a test that utilizes immunocomplexing when antibody and antigen are brought together. Right, so that is immunoassay. Now we have understood the half part of the word, that is radioimmunoassay. Now we'll be talking about the initial radio also. Before that, let us talk about antibodies, antigens and analytes. These three things you should know clearly, right? So antibodies. What are antibodies? Antibody is a protein which is produced by body in response to the invading foreign substance. Protein produced by body in response to foreign substance. After antibody, we need to know what is antigens. So antigen is a substance that the body is trying to fight with, which is non-self. It is foreign to the body. Example, a drug can be an antigen or a bacteria can be antigen. So antigen can be any substance, that body is trying to fight, is trying to get rid of, or fight. Then what's an immunogen? Antibodies, antigens and immunogen. So immunogen is a substance that elicits the immune response. A substance that elicits immune response. Example, drug protein conjugate. Example, drug protein conjugate. After that, we need to know what is an analyte. What is an analyte? So an analyte is anything which is measured by a laboratory test. Anything measured by a laboratory test. It's called as analyte. So In immunoassay testing, the analyte may be either an antibody or antigen. So, in test, it can be antigen or antibody. So, immunoassays actually utilizes one or more of the selected antibodies to detect the analyte of interest, right? So, it can use one or two antibodies of interest. So, analyte being measured may be normally present in body produces but not typically present, or do not naturally occur in body. It can be anything. So, analyte can be what all things it can be: naturally present in body, first thing, naturally present in body, like a thyroid hormone. Second, body produces but are not typically present, such as cancer antigen, produced by body but in abnormal condition. Then do not naturally occur in body, such as drugs. Do not naturally occur in body, like drugs. So these are the three things in which the analyte can be categorized: naturally present in body, produced by body in cancer and conditions like that, do not naturally occur in body, those all things. Now, before beginning with the RIA, or just directly coming to RIA, let us have a very precise idea about the structure of antibodies. Structure of antibodies. So antibodies are produced by B lymphocytes or B cells, B lymphocytes. The most common immunoglobulin of the body is IgG, and antibodies, they are called as immunoglobulins. Most common is IgG. Then IgG is a protein which is actually composed of two main structural and functional regions. So that is FAB region and FC region. So what about FAB region? It contains the antigen binding site that varies between different antibodies. So it has got contains antigen binding site that varies between different antibodies. Other than that, FC is a region of constant structure, region of constant structure within an antibody class, within an antibody class. So FAB, that is variable, and FFC, that is constant. So we would write over here variable, and here we would write constant, right? Then we need to actually talk about now main radio immunoassay. So we have just seen all the basics that we need to know for RIA. Now just give me a second, I'll add some of the slides and we'll be continuing with the topic, right? So just hold on for a sec. So now coming to the actual topic, that is radioimmunoassay. Radioimmunoassay. This is a very elegant technique in analytical chemistry, and it is used for detecting when the amount of analyte is very, very low. So if analyte is very low in order of micrograms, in order of micrograms or nanograms, or conventional methods like gravimetric and colorimetric methods, if they fall, then one has to go for radioimmunoassay. So RIA, that is radioimmunoassay, finds extensive lots of application in the assay of many of the substances which are present in actually trace amount in blood. So useful to detect substances which are present in trace amount in blood. Right. So whenever we talk about any of the technique, we usually see the history. So history of RIA. So this technique was developed by Rosalind Yallow and Solomon Burson in year 1959. In year 1959, developed by Rosalind Yallow and Solomon Burson. And they did this for measurement of insulin in plasma. For measurement So it is represented the first time that the hormone level in blood could be detected by an in vitro assay. So this was for the very first time. And for giving this technique, Yellow also received a Nobel in year 1977. 1977, Yellow got Nobel Prize. Nobel Prize. So the prize was actually shared by Yellow and Burson both. Yellow received the prize actually. So RIA is can say a milestone technique in the field of immunoassay. Now talking about the principle of RIA. So the amount of antibody per tube is kept constant. The amount of antigen which is to be added from outside, which is known or unknown, is the variable parameter. So amount of antibody per tube is constant. Then amount of antigen which can be known or unknown is a variable. So the added antigen will be distributed between a bound and the free fraction. If it is having complementarity, it is going to be bound, and if it is non-complementary, it is not going to bound. So let us write added antigen will be distributed between a bound and a free, that is F fraction. So this distribution is governed by the association constant, that is Ka. of the antibody. So antibody plus antigen is going to give antigen antibody complex. So K is equal to antibody antigen complex whole thing divided by the individual concentration of antibody and antigen. So the numerator and denominator, they are not same. This is distribution is governed by association constant. This K is the association constant. Association constant. Now there is competitive binding of radio-labeled antigen and unlabeled antigen to a high affinity antibody. So competitive binding of radio-labeled antigen and unlabeled antigen to a high affinity antibody. So there will be binding of the labeled or unlabeled antigen to the antibody. So there will be a competition. The labeled antigen is mixed with the antibody at a concentration that saturates the antigen binding sites of the antibody. The labeled antigen is mixed with the antibody at a concentration that saturates the antigen binding site of antibody. Antigen binding site of antibody. So as the concentration of unlabeled antigen increases, more labeled antigen will be replaced from the binding site. As concentration of unlabeled antigen increases, more labeled antigen will be replaced from binding site. So decrease in the amount of radio-labeled antigen bound specific antibody in the presence of the test sample is measured for determination of the amount of antigen which is present in the test sample. So in standard condition, the amount of labeled antigen which is bound to the antibody decreases whenever the amount of unlabeled antigen increases in the sample. So these two are the things. We'll just see these two things in a more clear and specific manner. The decrease in amount of radio-labeled antigen bound specific antibody in the presence of test samples is measured to determine the amount of antigen present in test sample. So in a standard condition, the amount of labeled antigen bound to the antibody decreases as amount of unlabeled antigen increases in sample. So this is how the thing occurs. See, we are going to draw a picture for this. We'll take the highlighter. We are going to use this. So see, these are the antibodies. And in these antibody, there will be joining of the labeled antigen. Joining of labeled antigen. So this is how they are going to look like. And now when there will be presence of labeled and unlabeled antigen, they are going to actually fight for the binding site. So what will happen? Some of them would be replaced by the labeled antigens and some of them will have the unlabeled antigens. This is how the process occurs. Now the reagents which are used in RIA. Reagents used. So first reagent is a tracer, that is a labeled ligand. Tracer, that is a labeled ligand. Then secondly, binder. Binder is an antibody which is a specific antiserum. Just the specific antiserum. Then a separation system should be there to separate the bound and free phases. Separation system. Then a standard should be used which should be in a very pure form. Standard. And free human antiserum is needed. Free human antiserum is needed. So these are the reagents which are used in RIA. So when we are talking about tracer, so the isotopes which are used, or radioisotopes to be very specific because it is radio immunoassay. So radioisotopes which are used are beta emitters. These are H3 and C14, and gamma emitters, they are iodine 125. So tracer. So when we are talking about H3, that is tritium. So it's a weak beta ray emitter. It's a weak beta ray emitter. Then it has significantly low energy than carbon 14. Then it has low physical half-life of around 12.3 years. Then biological half-life is of 10 to 12 days. Then it is produced by neutron bombardment of lower hydrogen isotope and used for drugs like proteins and amino acids. Used for proteins and amino acids. So these are some of the things which you should know about tritium. So this comes under the category of tracer. Now When we are talking about carbon 14, so we should discuss carbon 14 as well. So let us talk a little bit about carbon 14. So it is again a weak beta ray emitter. Then it has long physical half-life. Long physical half-life, that is 5.7 to 10 raised to power 3 years approximately. And biological half-life is when it is in bound form, it is having a half-life of 12 days. Biological half-life when it is bound is 12 days. When it is unbound, it is 40 days. So commercially available as barium carbonate, carbon 14 is used. Commercially, barium carbonate. Carbon 14 is used. So this was about carbon 14. Okay. After that, when we are talking about iodine, so why to skip iodine? Let us talk about iodine as well. Iodine 125. So it has low gamma emission, then high specific activity, short physical half-life of 60 days. So this is about iodine 125. Right. Now positron versus gamma isotopes and other commonly used isotopes. These are some of the most important discussions which are done whenever we are talking about RIA, because tracers are the important thing which should be discussed. So iodine 125 is the most favored tracer when it comes to RIA. So most favored. So it can be obtained with specific activity and almost 100% isotopic abundance, thus reducing the counting time, and it is quite economic. Economic is another very important factor which is associated with iodine 125. Then it has a very convenient half-life of around 60.2 days, and hence the shelf life for labeled antigen is quite long. And iodine is a natural constituent of thyroxine and triiodothyronine, so that is very easy to use, and it can be easily introduced into specific peptide molecules and steroids. And gamma emission actually permits the use of simple inexpensive instruments and equipments for counting the radioactivity, so it is quite preferred. But as nothing comes with 100% positives, there are some disadvantages also. So the disadvantages which are associated with iodine is the damage to the ligand may occur during the storage, and there are various health hazards as well which is associated with iodine. So after iodine, H3 is more efficient when relatively small sample is to be determined. So it has a long shelf life, then higher affinity, then minimal health hazard is associated with H3. But the disadvantages associated with it is quite costly. So this is how the things work. Now let us talk about specific anti-serum. Specific anti-serum. So this is also called as binder or antibody. Binder or antibody. So it is prepared by injecting the antigen together with fluids adjuvant into suitable animals such as guinea pig, rabbit, or goat, and molecule like thyroid hormone, steroids, drugs are not immunogenic. So they are conjugated to carrier proteins and polymer to make them immunogenic. So this is how the specific antiserum it is developed. The specific serum development we have seen. Then we need to talk about the separation system. So it is required because the bound fraction does not precipitate spontaneously at a very low concentration. So variety of procedures are used for developing the separation system, that is physical method and chemical method and solid phase system. So these are some of the separation systems which are used. So why is it required? First of all, we'll see that it is required because bound fraction does not precipitate spontaneously at low concentrations. So variety of procedures are used. So they are physical method. We'll be elaborating this: physical, chemical, and solid phase. So when we are saying physical, chemical, and solid phase, so in physical, the separation system that is used is filtration, then chromatography, then electrophoresis, charcoal dextran absorption. These things will come under physical. Then for chemical, organic solvents such as ethanol, dioxane, polyethylene glycol, or salts such as sodium, zinc, and ammonium sulfates are used. So this is how the separation system is developed. Then a high standard, that is a ligand in highly purely form is needed. So standard. So a standard. So standard, that is a ligand or analyte in highly pure form. In highly pure form is needed. So drugs, proteins, hormones, extra, etc. All any of the thing which is to be seen must be in pure form so that they can be diluted. So standards are prepared in ligand-free system. Standards are prepared in ligand-free serum. So in case of protein, hormones, the standard should be prepared preferably with the hormone from the species from which the serum is going to be analyzed. So it gives much better result. So that is about the standard. Now talking about ligand-free human serum. So it is prepared by treating the human serum with charcoal. It can also be prepared by collecting the serum from volunteers in whom the production of that ligand or hormone has been inhibited by treatment with an appropriate drug. So that is also one of the thing. After that, let us talk about the actual procedure of RIA, because yes, we have done the principle and everything, but now let us after see everything, let us come to the procedure of how it is performed. So I need to add some of the slides over here. Just wait for a while. I'll add the slides. Mm. So Yeah. So general procedure for performing RIA. So a known quantity of antigen is made radioactive. We'll be doing that. Known quantity of antigen is made radioactive. The radio-labeled antigen is then mixed with a known amount of antibody for that antigen, and as a result, the two of them chemically bind to one another. So this radio-labeled antigen mixed with known amount of antibody for the antigen, and they bind to one another. After this, a sample of serum from patient containing an unknown quantity of the same antigen is added. A sample of serum from patient containing an unknown quantity of that same antigen is added. Now this causes the unlabeled antigen from the serum to compete with the labeled antigen for the antibody binding site. So I'll just write competition begins, because we have seen that what kind of competition. Competition starts. After this, as the concentration of cold antigen, that is unlabeled antigen, increases, more of it binds to the antibody. So as concentration of unlabeled antigen increases, more of it binds to the antibody, right? So as the concentration increases, it keeps on binding, and by displacing the radio-labeled variant and reduces the ratio of antibody bound to the radio-labeled antigen to the free radio-labeled antigen. This is what it does. So the bound antigens are then separated from the unbound ones. Bound antigens are then separated from unbound ones. So the radioactivity of the free antigen remaining in the supernatant is measured. Radioactivity of free antigen in supernatant is measured. Supernatant is measured. So separating bound from unbound antigen is quite important and crucial. Separation of bound from unbound is crucial. So initially the method of separation employed was a kind of secondary antibody, but that is not used these days. So whatever we have actually read, I hope you people have understood that. So for the same, we'll just draw a picture also, so that the things would be much more clear. See, if these are the antibodies, and they are bound with the radio labeled antigens and now when we are adding non-radioactively labeled antigens, they are going to show certain kind of competition and they are going to replace the radio labeled antigens from the antibody. So there will be a mixed crowd. And there will be lots of free radio labeled antibodies. So that will be now actually detected, and in some of the cases secondary antibody is also added, so that will be performed. So let us write the things that this is the radioactive antigen, radioactive antigen, then this is the first antibody, then there is addition of unlabeled antigen, addition of unlabeled antigen. So there will be replacement of the radioactively labeled antigen by unlabeled antigen. So there will be precipitation of antigen antibody complex with the anti-immunoglobulin, that is the secondary antibody would be added like this. In some of the cases, as I told you, secondary antibody is also added. So the secondary antibody is going to look like this. So secondary antibody is also added for precipitation. So this is secondary antibody. So this is how the procedure of RIA takes place. Now, whenever we talk about any technique, we need to see its advantages and disadvantages. So advantages of RIA. So radioimmunoassay is a very sensitive technique. It's a sensitive technique used to measure the concentration of antigen without the need of bioassay. So it can measure 1/1,000,000th of a gram of material per milliliter of blood. Very important. Can measure 1/1,000,000th of a gram per milliliter of blood. Can you imagine how much sensitive it is of blood? So it is structurally specific as antigen antibody reaction are highly specific. So specific, it is a specific assay. It is indirect method of analysis, basically indirect analysis. So it is a saturation analysis as active reagent added are in a smaller quantity than that of the analyte. So it's a saturation analysis kind of technique. So like this, we have done the advantages. Let us talk about some of the disadvantages. So prolonged reaction time, maybe in days as a consequence of highly diluted reagent is used. So prolonged reaction time. Then radioactive iodine, which is used, is not actually a cheap reagent. So iodine 125 is not cost effective. It's not cost effective. Then possible health hazards are actually associated with whenever there are radioactively labeled isotopes are used. So health hazards are associated, like whenever we are talking about fluorescence. So it is not associated with health hazards, but radio isotopes are associated with health hazards. Then there is a limited range of assay. So limited assay range. Then there is difficulty in automation. Everything needs to be done manually. Difficulty in automation. Lengthy counting time, then lack of direct linear relationship between analyte concentration and signal response. So these are some of the disadvantages of RIA, but we should also know that what are the uses of RIA before concluding. So yes, uses of RIA. So narcotic drug detection. So very important. Narcotic drug detection. Then blood bank screening for hepatitis and viruses is also done through RIA. So blood bank screening. Then early cancer detection. Early cancer detection, as we can see that 1 trillionth of a gram per milliliter of blood. So early cancer detection can be done through RIA. Measurement of growth hormones. Measuring the growth hormones. Then tracking of leukemia virus. Tracking of leukemia virus. Then diagnosis of ulcers. Then research with brain chemicals such as neurotransmitters can also be done through RIA. Research on neurotransmitters can be done with the help of RIA. There are some of the recent applications of RIA such as estradiol measurement in translational studies of breast cancer, then significance of prostate specific antigen in prostate cancer patient and in non-cancerous prostatic disease patient is done through RIA. Then evaluation of enzyme linked immunoassay, that is ELISA, and radioimmunoassay methods for the measurement of plasma oxytocin. These are the applications of RIA and enzyme linked immunoassays. So these are some of the recent applications of the technique, and like this we have completed this technique, trying to cover each and every aspect of the technique which we could, so that you can attend the question. So I hope you people have understood the things well, and as we say in the starting and end, let's crack CSIR UGC NET together. We are doing a crash course for CSIR UGC NET in the morning at 10:30, and 5 o'clock we talk about some of the important topics of GATE syllabus. So we do the crash course for GATE in the evening, that is at 5 o'clock. So if you haven't subscribed our channel, subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for getting all the notifications of the upcoming videos. And if you really like my video, please give it a thumbs up. It really motivates the educators like us. And go for the plus subscription, as recently a major discount is going on. So avail the discount and get an additional 10% discount by using my referral code FP01. And for watching the special classes of mine as well as for other educators, you will need the referral code of an educator. So use my referral code, that is FP01, and watch the free special classes, and also go for the plus subscription. Make this year 2021 as your year of success, qualifying the examinations which you always wanted to. So this is it for now. I hope you people have understood the thing well. We'll be meeting again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. today and tomorrow and for the coming months, and we'll be talking about CSIR syllabus and GATE syllabus. So thank you very much. Till then, we meet next time. Keep on studying and be happy. So finally, it's a bye from my side.